Very serious subject now. In Australia, I think it's 1/3 of us claim to have Irish ancestry. I know I certainly do. Yet, how much do we know about the tragedy of Northern Ireland, except for the news that we see whenever there's a bombing or another confrontation over there of major proportions? Our next guest is in Australia from Ireland to rally people for a cause that you may find shocking, even unacceptable, given that he defends the cause of the IRA. Please welcome, in our Sydney studios, Father Des Wilson. Welcome, Father. Now,
Thank you.
In saying that you defend the cause of the IRA, is it then fair enough to label you as a supporter of the IRA?
No, in fact, I wouldn't even accept that this is a proper description. I have been and remain a pacifist. My business is to end a war. I have never supported any particular political party, and I never will. We have a war going on for 20 years. It's got to stop. It's got to stop by negotiation. My business is to try to ensure that people in Australia know exactly what that war is about. That's putting it very simply.
Are you here in your rally? Are you here to gain funds too, of any kind?
No, I'd probably be the only cleric in Australia not looking for money. I don't look for money. What I do look for is peace in Ireland, and I think people ought to understand that what we've got is a very sophisticated, a very severe war, which has been going on for 20 years. It's about military bases, it's about the control of the economy, it's about all the other things. We've got to stop it by negotiation, and I firmly believe that only international public opinion is going to bring the people who are involved around the table, and particularly the British government.
Okay, if you had 60 seconds, which I'm giving you now just on this particular issue, how would you use those 60 seconds in describing to people what should be done and what you believe can be done?
Well, I think it's very easy. What you've got in North East Ireland is the demand by the British government that they should have military bases there. They have also, we have also the desire on the part of the British government to control the Irish economy for obvious reasons. Now, all right, these are historic reasons why the British government does what it does in Ireland. Now, the point that I and my colleagues that I work with in Belfast are making is quite simple, that you must bring all the parties to this dispute round the table and you must negotiate with them. Now, so far the British government has refused to do so. I think it must be forced to do so. I don't think governments do anything just out of sheer goodwill. All right, once having got to the negotiating table, the Irish people are just as sensible as anybody else. They want peace, but it will be peace through negotiation and compromise. We're quite capable of doing it. I believe myself, although this is an opinion which might possibly surprise a lot of people, I believe that the British government is in fact the greatest obstacle to that kind of negotiation.
But what about the IRA? I mean, have a look at these scenes. Admittedly, we're many thousands of miles away from the occurrences, but when we watch our news services and we see the tragedies, when we see the bombings, I mean, surely in no way at all, and so far today you haven't said this, but in your writings you have shown the fact that you do support the cause of the IRA, and they're the perpetrators of this kind of thing.
It depends what you mean by the cause. The word cause in an Irish context has come to mean a very special thing, that is a Republican cause. I support unreservedly the right of the Irish people to determine their future. And I do believe...
By any means, Father?
I didn't say that.
No, I'm asking you.
No, not necessarily by any means, by whatever means
but, pardon me, just one second.
No, wait a minute now.
I just want to talk about the... You know, I'm not trying to corner you. By whatever means
are relevant
Just hang on one sec.
No?
I mean, there's nothing to corner you about, except I just want you to say categorically that you do not support the violence of the IRA.
I support the violence by nobody, and I have said that over and over again. And indeed, if anybody had taken the trouble to look at what I've written over the years, they will see that I have adopted a pacifist stance at all times. However, perhaps I could make a point here, that because I have opposed the policies of the British government has returned that compliment by telling the people in Ireland, and I have no doubt the people in Australia, because they've said it in continental Europe, that I and people like me are terrorists. Now, I think that there is an indication of the kind of government we're dealing with. You literally cannot oppose the policies of a government, even in a peaceful way, as I have done for many years, without being dubbed a terrorist. Now, that to me is unacceptable, and I make no bones about it. If you're talking about atrocities that are occurring, the only way to stop atrocities is to stop the war. That is the business of citizens like me. But I'm under no illusions. I have already been condemned by the British government because I've adopted this kind of stance, but I'm in good company. Archbishop Elder Câmara, for example, in Brazil, has been dubbed by the authorities there for exactly the same reason. And there are many others. Archbishop Romero was dubbed and killed. So you're dealing with a government which is so determined to have military bases. NATO wants military bases. The United States government wants military bases. You're dealing with the same kind of problem as you're dealing with in many Central and South American countries.
Father, back in the mid-70s, your own church put some stops on you, didn't it? Didn't it prevent you from continuing with your church activities?
Yes, indeed, and I'd like to make the reason very clear. It's because I resigned from certain positions which I had in the church. There weren't very many. I didn't have very many positions, but I resigned from them because I did not believe that the church was using its resources in order to alleviate the poverty of Belfast, which in places is enormous, in order to bring about the reconciliation of people, in order to solve the political problems and to bring about human rights. And because we've got immense resources, we're a very rich church, very rich, and we have tremendous international connections, we weren't using these in order to bring about peace in Ireland. And because of this, I resigned. It was I who resigned from these positions of the church. Didn't cease to be a Catholic priest. I would never do that.
Certainly. What about the church's attitude to you now,
if I may finish, the end result was that the church authorities believed that they should negotiate with the government, and indeed that they should compromise with the government. I didn't believe this was so. Eventually, we came to terms, and we have a very good relationship now with between church authorities and myself, and it's a very happy relationship in which we all say what we believe in.
Do you do parish work?
My work is full-time adult education and trying to create jobs in an area where we've got 80% unemployment. I mean 80% very carefully cultivated, politically cultivated unemployment. So that I'm full-time engaged in that.
Who are you addressing whilst you're here in Australia?
Whoever would listen. Very, very often. Something which I think is a marvellous thing here. There are small broadcasting stations which are independent. We could never have that at home because the law doesn't allow it. And in these broadcasting studios, you can have a very constructive discussion, which I couldn't have at home. I also met journalists and people who were involved in various Irish societies, for which I was very grateful. But primarily, I came out at the invitation of the National Irish Association to speak at their annual commemoration in Waverley.
Do they have any political ties at all?
Sorry?
Do they have any political ties at all?
Well, no, I don't. I'm not aware of what kind of political ties they may have, for all I know. I have been here only a couple of weeks, and I don't know. But again, I think I should make my own position clear, that through the years I have been invited at home by people in loyalist organisations, Protestant organisations, Catholic organisations. I go anywhere where I can get people to listen to what I have to say, and in many countries, therefore, there's a whole spectrum of people from left to right, and people who would appreciate and support, say, Sinn Féin, and people who would, on the other hand, support, say, almost, you might say, cooperative British policy in Ireland. And I've spoken to them all. And that has been, over the last 10 years especially, a lot of the work that I've done. So I'm sure they have, of course, political affiliations, and they're welcome to them.
Father, thank you for talking to us today, and have a good stay in Australia.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Father Desmond Wilson.